Well, in a couple of days, we'll all be commemorating the 100th anniversary Anzac Day. And Barnaby Joyce, you were just saying during the break, your grandfather has quite an amazing story, really, when it comes to Gallipoli.
Yeah, my grandfather was a permanent army from New Zealand. He arrived at Gallipoli on the first day. He left on the last. He then went to the Western Front, where he got a DCM, which is one of the highest awards for bravery. He was a permanent army between the wars. At one stage, he was on a tour. He was the regimental sergeant major in charge of the bodyguard for Edward VIII. And then he was back into the Second World War, where he went, I think, went right up to Guadalcanal in artillery. So he went through both World Wars. He gave a lot of stories about Gallipoli.
So you knew him as a kid?
I didn't know him well. I was only about 4 when he died.
Right.
But the stories he gave us was they had a Turkish prisoner, and they knew they were going, and they were trying to get him to escape. So they kept on taking him to places and turning their back, saying go. But
Run off.
I reckon by the time they got back to the kitchen, he was there waiting for them. So
he knew a good meal.
he knew he was on a good thing. And the one story I'll leave is, as they left, they said it would be terrible to leave here and die on the way out, get shot on the way out. So they went onto this boat and had a big steel partition. And I thought, well, we'll get behind that and then we'll be safe because for stray shots. And the punt went out and turned around, so the only person who was actually facing Gallipoli was him and his mate, and they could hear the bullets hitting bits and pieces of the steel around them.
It must be, and Julian, you've got a story as well about your great-grandfather.
My great-grandfather was in the 1st Light Horses, not as distinguished as Barnaby's grandfather. He was a saddler sergeant, and then he went on to the charge of the Light Horse at Beersheba afterwards, and came home and was a commercial traveller by trade. And I went to Gallipoli for the first time last year as a tourist. It is an amazing experience because you realise when you see it that how small it is, how cold it is, how steep it is, and how unprotected it is. And to think that we survived 9 months there despite the conditions and despite the fact there are 100 million bullets.
It's extraordinary, and you know, if we, many of us who may not have known as much about Gallipoli, certainly in the last week or two, any television channel you turn on, you'll be learning a lot about Gallipoli. And the one thing that really rings through is what a debacle it was. Why then do you think it's become such an important part of the Australian psyche?
Well, it's the first major battle that we were in as a country, and you know, people went to the war for an adventure. People weren't certain as to what the war was all about. And when the casualties came, it was a wake-up time for the country, that this is not just some adventure and you'll be home by Christmas. My great-grandfather had a shilling that he was given to go and spend in Constantinople, which, of course, they never got anywhere near there. So it was an awakening for the country, but we also distinguished ourselves in battle. 9 VCs for Australia came out of that Gallipoli campaign.
Can I just say one word of caution, and I hate to sound a discordant note, but I want to make sure that in this remembrance of a very solemn occasion that we don't turn it into a form of Hollywood. This should not be a celebration of war. There's nothing. My grandmother had, we don't know, it was either 6 or 7 brothers, but what we do know is they're all killed. She was English. And so let's not have any celebration of war. War's a terrible thing. This is a time of deep reflection, of absolute respect for those who did that incredibly brave thing of serving our nation, but it is not a time of some sort of Hollywood.
I think that's absolutely right, Barney. It shouldn't be turned into a circus because it was, frankly, from the British commanders down to even the Australian commanders, it was just butchery on Australians. And I think why it's so significant for us, it was not just one of our first major engagements, because there were in 1914 engagements elsewhere, but the important thing was it was the camaraderie ship that came out of, the Australian character came out of it, the fact that it was a defeat, but it also developed who we are as Australians. And we shouldn't see it as anything other than enormous sacrifice, and it shouldn't be turned into a circus. I totally agree with you.
And one of the things that rings through from you know, the clips that we've seen over the last week or so from the diggers who did serve there, you know, before they all died, was exactly the point you make. You know, what a what an awful situation it was. The death, the carnage all around them, the poor decisions by the commanders as well.
British and Australian.
Well, yes,
both.
yes, that's right.
But I mean, it was also the making of some of the Australian commanders. I mean, Monash was there. People forget now, there's a fellow called General Brudnell White who was responsible for the evacuation. I mean, that
Which was one of the hallmarks of success of it, that's right.
And the lessons there that were learnt were
Monash became one of our great generals.
It did.
Exactly.
From what you've seen around the 100th anniversary events that are happening in Gallipoli this week, I mean, do you fear, particularly with personal connections to it, that it is turning into a bit of a circus, that there has been too much of the cruise ships and boat
I think
races?
Barnaby's hit it right on the head. You know, some of the participations really just look tacky in my view. I think we need to be respectful, and I think we need to treat the memory of those who died and made the supreme sacrifice. There's got to be a dignity to this, and I don't think it should be turned into a circus. You hit it right on the head.
Yeah.
There's a dignity, but you also don't want to make it inaccessible for people. I mean, I agree about the boat races and so on, and you know, at Anzac Cove for various years there have been people getting drunk and so on. That's entirely inappropriate. But this has become, we don't have many national stories that bring us together, as it were, and it's because of some of the things that people have said around the table. It's because of the slaughter and the heroism and so on that has brought people together, regardless of their background. Even people who came here later than
they shared the spirit.
They shared the spirit, exactly. And I think it's important that, you know, as a country that doesn't have very much of that we pause to think about.
And every Australian should go there. I mean, I've been there. You realise the enormity of what happened when you see those hills and the narrow beaches.
But I think what also we've got to, and this is important, to go to Gallipoli is great, but you can do just as much in remembrance by going to your local cenotaph. That if you're there and you're quiet in the morning and just think about the terror and the sacrifice, and also it wasn't just there. Remember, these people came home with a kit bag full of agony in their heads and a whole heap of problems that they brought back to their house. And we've got to make sure that, you know, these people, they say, well, you know, I compromised my part of my sanity being there. I compromised my income stream because whilst we were there, you were getting ahead in life. I brought pain back to my household because it is the insanity of war comes back in the sort of psychosis in the house.
Barnaby, the older you get, the more sense you make.
Well, Barnaby's very right, though, too, that it knocked a whole generation of Australian men, and really we were a different nation prior to that, and we would have been a different nation without the First World War. And I guess that's one of the things. It's a mourning of what might have been a path that we could have taken had we not had so many. You know, they used to call it shell shock. We now know it's post-traumatic stress disorder. And I guess Anzac Day has changed in its meaning from the 70s. There was a lot of contention about it. Now it's a much more unifying event, I think.
It's also a day, I think, where a lot of Australians do, you know, think about that battle, about the many atrocious wars that we've been involved in over the years, and think, you know, is it all worthwhile? What did we achieve in Gallipoli? What did we achieve in Kokoda? All of these things. War fighting's changed so much over 100 years, but when we look at what we're doing today, I mean, is it worth it? Is it worth being over in?
What wars should we in fact be engaged in? And that's one of the real challenges for us, because this was really a British war. It was a European war. We were there because we were worried about our security. But I saw a piece that was written today about this, and I think we need to draw a distinction. Some people say we shouldn't have been in Gallipoli because it was a British war, therefore we shouldn't be in the Middle East. The fact is, the Middle East is a different thing. That is terrorism, which is global and has affected us. Has affected us in Bali, affected us in Sydney. It is a different thing, and therefore we should be part of that.
I think the other thing is what it has done, and this has been the maturing of Australia, is there was a time, a disgraceful time, where we took the actions of government out on the troops that served. Now we are saying, no, the troops that serve are always doing the right thing because they are serving the nation.
That happened in Vietnam.
They're serving the nation.
Well, that's the Vietnam story.
And
exactly.
the other good thing I think about Anzac Day is I was thinking in the quiet of the morning, in the dark of the morning, we all stand there. There's an incredible egalitarian spirit because it doesn't matter where, there's no sense of social stratification. There's a sense of we're all here together for...
It's the one day that unifies. It's the unification day. That's what it really is.
And that's
what it is for Australia. It's a unification day.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that particularly in Kokoda, that it did make a very big difference. Saved Australia. It was the first time the Japanese were
pushed
turned
back.
back. I think other wars are more contested. The First World War is more contested, but we should think, would Europe have been a better place had it been dominated by the Kaiser? Well, probably not. But was it worth thousands of men dying in the way that they died, whether it be at Gallipoli or Passchendaele or the Somme or anywhere else? You know, that's another question.
The one thing it does do in a public policy sense, and James Brown from the Lowy Institute wrote a very good book about this, is that it has, unfortunately, the one downside about Anzac Day and all the knowledge and learning about it is, for many Australians, the mindset about war is still that sort of World War I trench warfare style war. And I think we know so little about the way in which modern soldiers fight today and the conditions that they're in and the nature of warfare and the ability of us to judge.
The use of technology.
Well, that's a whole other issue, isn't it, about how we record that, how the media can or can't cover current conflicts like
Well,
the
they
one
can
going
cover
on.
more than they could in Anzac.
One important strategic question, it's also given us a very army-centric view of military engagements, and we're an island nation.
That's true.
Yeah.
We're going to have to wrap it up. Unfortunately, time has beaten us, but I think a nice moment of unity on which to finish. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you for your company as well, and do get out there for the dawn service or the march, wherever you live, on Saturday, this Anzac Day.